Let's go to Christy, who's on the line in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Christy, you're on the Ken Coleman Show.
Hi, Ken. How you doing?
I am living the dream, Christy. How are you?
I'm doing well also. I'm very thankful for your radio show. It has helped me in a lot of areas. I'm still floundering a bit. I have been a residential builder for over 20 years and have helped my husband with a heat and air conditioning company, run the office, answer the phones, that type thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten to the point to where I just don't like the residential building as much as I did because it's so political now.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to depend on so many people to get a task complete. And when they fail, then I fail.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like to fail.
Yes. What is your exact role in that residential construction? What role do you play?
I am the builder. I am the primary contractor that's in charge of the whole project.
Oh, okay. When you said it, it sounded like you were the chief, and I wanted to make sure.
Chief cook and bottle washer.
I like this, Christy. I like this a lot. You are the boss.
Yes, sir, I have been.
Okay, so you're telling me if you've been in this for 20 years, you're very successful. Whether we don't have to compare spreadsheets, but to stay in something like residential construction with all the ups and downs and dips and dives of the economy, that's a very, very impressive thing. So for you to call me going, I don't know if I want to do that, I think we've got to look at what's really driving this. So what's really, so let me put it this way. I heard what you said, but I want you to be more specific. I heard you talk about politics to get stuff done. But if you could wave a magic wand, Christy, just humor me on this. And you could eliminate X, Y, and Z, maybe A, B, C, and D. And if you could eliminate those interactions or those tasks that are kind of just sapping your joy, what would they be? And then how would the role be if those things were removed? Just humor me. Go.
The things that I really enjoy about building are talking to a customer, getting their ideas, and putting their dream into reality. The parts that I don't enjoy are pushing people to complete their job in a manner in which I expect them to. So if I could take out that variable and the different changes that come about in the building and codes part that affect the cost of the building, the quickness that it can be built, things like that, then I would change that.
Okay, let's talk about those two things, because those are the two biggies that are sapping your joy, right?
Yes.
Okay. If Stacey and I sat down with you today, which, by the way, she's from Charlotte, North Carolina, so that's not far from you.
Awesome.
And we sat down with you, and we said, okay, here's what we're looking to do. And then you would ask us a bunch of questions. And we'd walk out of that meeting with us feeling like we downloaded to you what we want in building a home. And you would enjoy that part. You like that because now you've heard from the customer, and I guess that's where your design brain comes in and you have a vision for it. Is that right?
Yes.
All right.
I can see things that the typical customer cannot.
Right. So you love that. So
yes,
what would you do? What would you do from there? You would go back and you sit down with I guess you got somebody who draws plans for you. You work together with them?
Yes, I do.
And then what?
And then once these plans are complete, then I would start pricing out the product. Mm-hmm. But even before that, I have a general idea of what that cost may be and try to guide the customer to what's in their budget.
And you dig that, right?
I do, because we have a Southern living world and everyone can't afford a Southern living budget.
Exactly. So you really like this process of listening, designing, and guiding, and then executing on it to where they get the keys and they walk in. You dig all that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we know that. Now I'm walking you through this very demonstratively on purpose because this is going to help you. So you love that. What you don't like, quite frankly, is the people problems. Because in order for that beautiful little 4-step process that we described, you've got a foreman, you've got all kinds of, what do you call them? I'm losing
subcontractors.
Thank you. Subcontractors. Mm-hmm. It's a nightmare. Then you got codes, you got inspectors. It's like walking through a spider web all the time. And that's what's just sucking the life out of you.
Right.
So why don't you hire somebody to manage that for you, and you be the chief creative customer and culture officer, and let the logistics and somebody else who has to deal with that all day long deal with that? Because you and I both know subcontractors are not going to change and go away, nor is local, state, and federal government regulations.
Right.
So let me just put it to you. Now that I say it that way, if you had a person, you could get a young guy who wants to make his way in construction. Maybe you got a family member who wants to be part of the business, and they're great at managing details. You need a detail machine, somebody who's great at crossing T's and dotting I's, and you teach them some people skills, and you focus on the culture and how you want to treat your employees, your people, how you want to treat your subs. You set some policies. This is how we're going to treat people. But other than that, you have people reporting to you on all that other junk, and you get to focus on the customer, the creativity, and the culture. If you did that, you could probably put in another 20 years, couldn't you? And love it.
Very possibly, yes.
Why'd you say very possibly? What else am I missing?
I'm almost 50 years old.
Yeah.
And I feel it's harder for me to do what I did on the job sites and move around on a day-to-day basis. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a control freak.
I get that.
If I'm in charge of something, I have a hard time relinquishing that.
I know, but you can change. Because here's what I'm getting at. You are 50. You may not be able to physically do what you once did, but that doesn't matter. Let's just for a second assume that you make all the changes that I tell you to make, and things are rocking and rolling. How much freedom does that give you in your life financially to go do the things you want to do? Maybe grandbabies. You know, your life.
A lot.
Right. So why would you give that up? You don't want to give up the construction business, Christy. You need to give up some control. What?
Shock.
What did you just say, Ken? Is there not a dump button? That's like swearing to Christy. Christy, you're really good at what you do, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So guess what? You need to take the fact that you're really, really good, and you need to spend some time over the next 2-3 years. And in that process, over 2 to 3 years, begin to replace yourself in some key functions that drain you, and you maintain that chief culture, creativity, customer officer. That's what you should keep control over. But you don't need to be on the job site all the time. Go steal somebody from another competing company who's really great, who you know are good. And see, your trust level comes down to skill. So there's 2 ways to deal with your control. Either you trained somebody that's got high character, so you trust their character, and you train them for skill, or you go find somebody that's got the character and the skill, and you go get them, and you pay them a truckload of money to make your life easier. And then next thing you know, you're Skyping in from Honolulu with a cocktail in one hand and the phone in the other, while you're bouncing around in the waves of Waikiki, and you're going, show me around the house. I need to look at that little closet area we talked about. Do you see what I'm saying?
That's amazing.
Yeah,
yes, sir,
it is amazing. And guess what, Christy? Very few people in this country can make happen what we just talked about over the last 8 minutes. But you can do it. So I'm cheering you on, and I'm challenging you. You have some control issues, and that's okay because
I do.
because you're amazing. No, you have those control issues because of how hard you work to create what you have. So that's okay.
That's true.
So own it and say, wait a second. What can only Christy do? Like, you got to talk about yourself in the third person. Step outside and go, what can only Christy do? And then what should only Christy do? Now, there's a difference. The could and the should are different, because what could, or, you know, what could only Christy do? Well, then we need to fix that, because we're going to train somebody to do some of those. But the should means this is what you hold on to. And as far as I'm concerned, I think it's the customer stuff for a while. You're that face of the company, because I want to know my builder. I don't want to meet the foreman. I want to meet Christy. I want to meet
Right.
the lady who's built homes for 20 years. And my peace of mind is there. Then once I know Christy's ultimately in charge and Christy's got my back, then I'll talk to Fred or whoever it is. But I want to buy my house from Christy, not Fred.
Okay.
You got it?
I got it.
All right. I don't want to hear
Sounds
anymore.
like a plan.
It is a plan. So no more excuses. I want a picture from you. I want you to email me from Waikiki. Like somebody like Christy just needs to get away and watch the organization do okay without her because she's done what she needs to do. And good on Christy. How about that? Contractor building houses for 20 years.